Graphic photos, intimate texts. Jason Gray kept everything you could imagine on his cell phone. Then one day, he left his phone behind before leaving on a trip. His wife unlocked it and triggered a bomb that the couple now call the epic event.
I was helpless, and just listening to Tienasha just in agony, go through the phone and really asking questions. And at that moment, I was in fear of our marriage at that point, because it's like, now, what do I do? I'm busted.
Tienasha Gray thought her marriage with Jason was strong until one day in 2014, when he accidentally left his phone in her car before boarding a plane to Trinidad. He later borrowed a phone to call her.
She asked me for the password, which I was very reluctant to give her the password. And then when she opened up the phone, I heard a scream. That's when everything came crashing.
On the phone were text messages and graphic photos of Jason with other women.
My initial reaction was utter shock. I felt like emotionally I passed out. I just knew my world was crumbling.
All of my indiscretions, everything. I saved everything on my telephone. Pictures, everything was there. Text messages, I didn't delete anything. Just what you could imagine was on that phone was on that telephone.
Jason had grown up in the church and lived an outwardly Christian life, which was attractive to Tienasha when they first began dating.
I lived in New York and he lived in Florida at the time, but I did not have a thought that he would not be faithful. He went to church, he paid his tithes, he seemed like a great contributing member to society.
I felt a connection. I really felt like she was the one. She was very ambitious, and so that was one of the things that really attracted me to her, not only just her looks, but her intellect.
The couple had 3 sons and were happy for many years. But after what they now refer to as the epic event, their marriage was in crisis.
During the 10 years we got married, I didn't have any sexual relationships with any women, but I had a lot of emotional relationships, and I had a lot of inappropriate conversations leading up to the epic event. Now, the epic event happened after I met my affair partner back in 2014. And that, of course, the epic event exposed everything else that was going on in my life at the time.
On the day when I dropped Jason off at the airport, I had a good feeling, even before I got home, that this phone has the answers. There are some things that's locked up in here that I need to get into it.
Jason had 3 days to think before he returned from Trinidad.
When I arrived home, the first thing I did was drop to my knees and ask for her forgiveness. I was filled with all sorts of emotion, and what really hurt me was to see how she was responding to all of this, because here I am, the love of her life, a person that she put on a pedestal, and I betrayed her trust. I mean, I not only betrayed it, but I went and I ran through the wall of trust with a semi-truck.
I just truly said to him, I can't help you. I know someone who can. His name is Jesus. Here's a journal, here's a book, here's a pen. Please, there's a room upstairs. Go meet with God.
Jason spent the next week in their spare room fasting and praying.
I had no distractions. I did a lot of reading, and I felt the presence of the Lord in that room. So I really had a really strong encounter because I completely surrendered.
The healing process was challenging and took time.
I felt like I needed a good understanding of what happened, because I needed to put the pieces together. And how did it all occur? Like why, when, how, with who, when, just every question in the book.
She was angry. She hated me at times. And it was tough. And there was times where I wanted to walk away from the marriage. And I felt like there was times that she tried to push me away to see what I was made of.
God was working on Tienasha's heart also.
I knew she was praying for me regardless of if the marriage was going to survive or not, just for my own well-being, because that's what she does.
I knew that I had to forgive Jason. I did it out of obedience to God. And once I did it, I felt freed. And we continued the journey of going to counseling. I said to him, I forgive you. And you have a clean slate. Do whatever you want to do with it.
Jason humbly received the grace given to him and is totally committed to Tienasha. The couple later wrote a book about their experiences.
It was a long journey to reconciliation. It really took us going to many different classes. Jason did a Conquer series with men that dealt with addiction. Then together we did a Marriage for Life group with other couples. We did a lot of work, plus we were committed to just talking.
Today, their marriage is stronger than ever. They also host a weekly marriage podcast together to help other couples address the roots of their problems before it's too late.
Don't give up. God can restore anything if you're willing to work at it. And Tienasha always says that it takes two, but it starts off with one person. And that's always been our testimony.
Spending time together, quality time, making that time to connect is what I would advise couples to stand firm and be unmovable about those date nights. Keep going. Don't stop connecting, and be true to the process of healing, growing. That's what we believe for other couples, and we've seen it in our own lives.
Marriage takes hard work. Good marriage takes hard work for everybody. You know, one of the things that is so astonishing in Tienasha's story is her desire to be obedient to God and to do what he asks all of us to do, which is to forgive, allowed her to make that choice right away in the beginning. You know, there's a freedom that comes with that. There's a freedom with saying, I am going to forgive you for the things that you did that hurt and wounded me. We're not saying what was done is okay. Sometimes people are in situations where, you know, they have been molested, they have been beaten or wounded some way physically. Nobody's saying that's okay. But what forgiveness does do is it sets you free from bitterness and hatred and resentment, and it opens the door to God working in you. No matter what the outcome might be, no matter what the outcome, do not harbor bitterness. If Jesus hung on a cross and said in that moment, Father, I forgive them, they don't know what they do, then you and I can surely forgive in our circumstances. God is always for reconciliation where it's possible. Marriage is God's idea. It's supposed to be a picture of we, the bride of Christ, and he as the one who woos and loves us. God wants us to reflect who he is to each other and to the world. But it means just what Jason said. You have to surrender all, everything. Sometimes we sing that song, or that's something that we say, you know, I surrender all. It's serious business. It's very hard. And most of the time, at least in my own life, I found I don't even realize sometimes the things I haven't surrendered until my back is against the wall. And I come to that place of once again needing to choose. Am I going to be obedient to you, God, or am I going to follow my own leading? We all have an opportunity to choose. Today, I just want to say, if you're struggling in your marriage, choose to work things out. Choose to deepen what you had. Choose to let God come in and fix it. You know, he can take something that's broken. He can take something that's completely different than what you ever committed to with each other in the beginning and make something beautiful out of it.